On the tyranny of groupthink, we saw the Liberals refuse to walk away from net zero and really make this a referendum about climate change and the cost of living, the cost of energy. If you do have a Susan Ley as leader, who is a small L Liberal, what's that going to mean for the coalition? How strong is the coalition between the Liberals and the Nationals as things stand?
Look, Rita, I'm not going to get involved in the leadership of another party. It's completely a matter for the Liberal Party. Of course, we'll try and work productively with anybody who's elected, but I really am focused on our party right now. Obviously, we've got a question to answer this week, and we'll deal with those issues after that. But look, I'm also, despite the disappointment last week, yes, the Nationals Party in relative terms had a better outcome than the Liberals. But we didn't win government. That's our goal. That should be our task. And while it is very disappointing and disheartening for many of our supporters, I genuinely believe that the next few years could be the most exciting yet for the Nationals Party. I think we have a huge opportunity to sell ourselves in more areas around the country. We already know, given the results in recent elections, that we're very good at running local issues campaigns, being in touch with our local communities like Michelle Landry and Andrew Wilcox, Colin Boyce down the road, all are here in central Queensland. And I just think we can take that on the road, take that nationally, fight for every different region of this country, because we often do represent people and talk often with people who have to shower after work, not before work. They work tough jobs, not necessarily sometimes dirty jobs, but just check out chicks, nurses on their feet. They get tired by the end of the day. They're doing it tough, and we're in touch. We're on the ground. We're grounded with those people, and I think it's that kind of campaign we need to take, that choice to the Australian people, that we're on your side. We're going to fight for you. And I will always fight for those people who battle in this country, and because by making their life easier, by making their families better, that's how we make our country better too.
James.
And Matt, I want to talk a little bit more about this groupthink thing that you articulated there before, because I think that sums up another way of talking about this whole phrase culture wars, which we always hear from the left, which is a way of their saying, shut up and don't talk about the changes that we're making to the culture. Tell us about what position the Nationals are in and how you square, because I think it's absolutely necessary, you have to fight for something for the people, for all the people who are just doing tough, ordinary, everyday jobs, that the culture that we exist in matters, and that if we don't have a strong culture based on these sort of values of aspiration and achievement and liberty, that we won't actually have the economy that we need to create the prosperity that we deserve in the future.
Yeah, it's a good question, James. Look, the Nationals Party, it's not particularly ideological. We're very practical, very pragmatic, and it frustrates me when you're in Canberra, there's a whole different way of talking, which means there's a whole different way of thinking, which means there's a whole different way of acting. And so people talk about culture wars, left or right or moderate and small L Liberal and all this other stuff, which nobody out in the real world ever talks like. They don't talk like that. And as my colleague Andrew Wilcox summed up this week, he did it really well, summed up, we don't care about right or left, we care about right or wrong. That should be the question before any political party in this country, any country looking to advance itself, is what is right or wrong for our nation. I don't care if it's right or left. I don't care if the idea comes from the left wing or from a trade union or from a right-wing conservative think tank. I don't care. I want the right policies that help Australians, and that's what we're always focused on in the Nationals Party. I think right now we should look at the fact that our electricity bills are soaring. We're losing our industries. We're losing our jobs. And at a practical level, whatever you think about carbon emissions, climate change, whether you're a right-wing or you're Trumpian, whatever, who cares about those labels? Shouldn't the primary goal of all politicians, of your government right now, is to lower power prices? That should be the primary goal of your government, because people are suffering from those high power prices. It's feeding through to higher grocery prices, which are out of control, and then it's also leading to the loss of jobs and industries. Just under this first term of the Labor government, we've lost our plastics industry, we've lost our urea, which is the most important fertiliser industry, and we've lost our nickel industry, and that's just for starters. So I want to get back to that issue. At the election, I felt we designed our energy policy to reduce emissions. That's what we spoke about, zero emissions, nuclear, all that stuff. Look, of course it'd be better if we can have lower emissions, but we should design our energy policy to reduce power prices, not to reduce emissions.
And Matt, isn't the problem that under Labor we've got red tape, we've got green tape, we've now got black tape, so we've got all this regulation So you've talked about things like the live sheep trade being shut down, the gold mine that Tanya Plibersek decided, who needs a gold mine? I mean, we might find some gold down there for some songline B or whatever it was, some indigenous thing. So isn't it all that the sort of stuff which is National's heartland?
There's got to be leadership here from your government to say, look, we've got to cut through all of this wasteful paper shuffling, which is reducing our nation's productivity and ultimately reducing your wages. Real wages for people have gone back a decade under this first Labor government, and a big part of that is the rise of a bureaucratic class, both in government and in the corporate world, that is just causing people to do BS jobs that do nothing. They don't create any wealth, any productivity, and all they do are a drag on everyone else. And so, for example, the Commonwealth Bank a couple of months ago sent a construction firm a one-page list of more than 20 different statements they had to make on things like modern slavery, obviously ESG. If you don't know what ESG stands for, it stands for extreme shortages guaranteed. You had to fill out forms on your relationship on labour regulations, all this stuff, and they just wanted to build homes. This firm, and they're being asked to solve global climate change. I don't know if they had to solve the Middle East peace crisis as well, but it is just an utter absurdity. Why don't we let someone who wants to build homes just build homes? Focus on that. Why don't we have the Department of Infrastructure in Canberra just focus on building roads? Whereas under this government, every road they build, they have to assess for its impact on climate change. Well, I've just driven the Bruce Highway probably about 5 to 6 times in the last couple of weeks, and it is an utter disgrace, a national disgrace. Why don't we just fix that? Fix that. And I don't know about climate change, but I think we should focus on what we can control and focus on making people's lives better in a practical sense.
And also, sorry, Matt, the only roads that are perfect are the beautiful roads going to windmills and solar farms, which are decimating the Queensland countryside. But anyway, Rita.
Just a quick post-mortem from you, and just if you can give us an insight into what was happening within the coalition, because we were obviously very frustrated throughout the campaign, wondering when we were going to see these big policies, when we were going to see real points of differentiation. Why do you think that the coalition, the Liberal Party in particular, chose to run the policy platform they did, where for the average person it was hard to tell the difference between the two parties?
Well, I wish I could give you an inside view, but Rita, I haven't been on Insiders, I think, for 6 or 7 years. I'm an outsider like you. I obviously had different views on what policies we should take to election on different fronts. But look, so I don't exactly know. I don't know. I wasn't in the discussions in the room there. I do think, and I'm speaking generically then, sorry, not about necessarily this campaign, but I do think there's been perhaps an overemphasis on saying you have to stay on message and you just have one message, and there's not enough space in I suppose people's minds for multiple things. Well, there's always a little bit of truth in that. I do think perhaps we need to get with the media times. People are no longer just watching the 6 o'clock news every night. There actually is a bit of bandwidth here for some more detailed conversations. We certainly saw that in the presidential election last year with long-form podcasts and what have you. So, I think the Australian people have a hunger and openness for a little bit more detail, a little bit more of a conversation and a debate, and rather than just a focus on the 10-second sound bites, which may have worked really well 20 years ago from a political tactical point of view. But I like to have discussions. I like to get into the detail of things, because it's only by doing that you make the right decisions. As I'm saying, that's what we should be focused on, making right decisions for the Australian people.
Well, Matt Canavan, I hope the National Party room makes the right decision. I can tell you that if my mailbox is anything to go by, the hunger to see Matt Canavan leading the National Party goes across this nation, the width and breadth of this nation. People are so desperate to see you in that leadership role, Senator Matt Canavan. So good luck there in the party room, and thanks for coming on Outsiders, and we'll speak again soon.